Welcome to India Union News. Our guest today is Dr. Anil Chandraker, one of the top specialists of kidney transplant. On November 1st, he will be honored with the Healthcare Pioneer and Trailblazer Award 2025 at New Choice Award Gala. Today, we are going to talk to him about his life journey and the values which shapes his decisions. And of course, we'll talk about kidney transplant as well.
My professional journey started as a young physician. After I graduated in medical school, I became very interested in nephrology, mainly because I was exposed to that very early on. Living in the United Kingdom at the time, the research opportunities were limited. So I looked for an opportunity to come to the United States and was very fortunate to come here. And when I came to the United States, really everything exploded. The opportunities were tremendous. I was fortunate to work in a very high profile, high visibility center, and that gave me the opportunity to really do whatever it is I wanted to do, as long as I worked hard and was doing interesting work. My personal journey in terms of developing as an individual really started, I think, when I met my wife, Samir. We were both students together at university. Samir and I had similar thoughts about things that were important to us. It is our core values that has really kept us together all these years and helped us develop a really wonderful family. And I am very fortunate to have Samir by my side all the time.
One of the things that you might not know about Anil is that we have a daughter, Shahla, who lives at home with us. And she has complex medical issues. And that is something that Anil spends a great deal of time managing on a daily basis. And he manages to work this in, weave this in with his work. And it's something you might not know about him, but it's something else that is on his plate. And she has had these issues for over a decade. Our other daughter, Aisha, is independent. She lives in New York City, and she's a consultant there. And we are immensely proud of our twin daughters.
Samir and I have two wonderful twin daughters, Aisha and Shahla. They are both amazing individuals. We are so enormously proud of them. And they are, in many ways, mini versions, one like my wife and one like me. So that keeps everybody happy. If I were to give advice to my younger self when I was starting this journey, I think the one thing that I would say is really be confident in your own abilities and do what it is that you feel you want to do. Do not focus really on the long-term goals, because in your 20s, you don't really know what life will be like in your 50s or 60s. What are the opportunities going to be? Or what is it that somebody really at the top of their profession does? What you need to focus on is what is the next short-term step. Find a thing that really drives you and put all of your energy and heart into that. And be confident that if you do that, something good will come out of it. It may not be exactly what you expect, but it will be a really good thing.
So, Anil, welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. And we really appreciate your time for coming here Sunday morning.
Yes.
And we are looking forward to really honoring you on November 1st.
I think it'll be a wonderful opportunity, and I really appreciate the honor.
Excellent. And also, we want to make this, the Indian American or South Asian community aware about, educate them about the transplant of kidneys, how complicated, how challenging it is, and what are the some. But before we come to the kidney transplant, let's start with your journey. And what made you interested in medicine, and where it started, and when did you come to US?
Where it really started was as a child. My father was a lecturer in engineering. He was a physicist by training, and he wanted all of his children to be scientists and physicists. And my mother just had one wish, and that was one of her 4 children should be a physician.
Mm.
So I had an elder brother who became an engineer. I was also very focused on becoming an engineer. And then I realized just before applying to university that I didn't like engineering or science.
Mm.
And I said, well, somebody has to do it, so I will be a physician to please my mother.
Excellent. And you grew up in England?
I was born and grew up in England. I was born in Oxford and grew up in Manchester.
Yeah, okay. And then and you do your medicine all in England, right?
So I went to medical school in Scotland, which is obviously different than England, but in the United Kingdom.
Sure.
Yes. And that's where I met my wife, Samir, who's at Glasgow University studying law.
Excellent. And then what brought you to US, and how did you come to US?
So I really came to the US because I was looking for an opportunity to do research. So I was doing my clinical training as a nephrology specialist, and I was looking to do research. I had become very interested in doing at least 1 or 2 years of research in transplantation. There were very limited opportunities in the United Kingdom. And after trying and not succeeding in getting a position, I decided I'd try my hand at coming to the United States. And I was very fortunate to get a very important and excellent opportunity. So that's why we came.
And you came directly to Boston, or you went somewhere?
I came directly to the Brigham Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School, which is where the first kidney transplants was successfully done in the 1950s. So it was really an opportunity I couldn't turn down.
Yeah. So now I'm coming back to the main topic here as well, the kidney transplant in 1950. So from 1950 to 2025, there has been a lot of advancements made, a lot of changes. Technology has changed, has much easier. So if you can just describe how quickly we have really come so far in that kidney transplant area.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting point. I mean, kidney transplantation really evolved in front of the public. It was something where the first successful kidney transplant was in 1954. When that was done, it was done between identical twins. And the important thing about that is that you didn't need immunosuppression because the twins were identical, the donor and recipient were the same. So that was successful, but it wasn't really successful in the sense that it didn't enable us to transplant kidneys from people who were not identical twins. And so the next step had to be the development of immunosuppression. So all of this is happening in real time under the gaze of the public. And it is really a very sort of difficult thing to do because, as you can imagine, there will be a lot of trial and error. And the initial success rates were not very good. And there were high rates of rejection. There was lots of transplants that were lost early. And really through a series of developments and discoveries, they managed to improve the amount of immunosuppression, and they developed the techniques to harvest the organs and to transplant them in a timely fashion so that they could be successful. But it is really very much an ongoing area where we still need many, many more kidneys than we have available for the people who need to be transplanted.
So which year was literally much more really like we made a real jump that, okay, now we can do it on a commercial scale, like when roughly?
So I think there were important dates. So in the early 1960s, they did the first successful deceased donor kidney transplant. In the 1960s, they developed new immunosuppression medications. But when I started my interest in kidney transplantation, which was really in the late 80s, the rejection rate was still 50% at the first year. Now, not all of those transplants were lost, but now acute rejection rates are around 6% as opposed to 50%. So you can see really I would say at the beginning of 2000, they made some dramatic improvements in the immunosuppression that really reduced the rejection rates.
Yeah. Now, since I have the expert here in the room, I have to ask you the time between dialysis and kidney transplant. Just tell us, for some of us who are not really familiar with that, and educate our audience, that when you really decide, okay, I really need the transplant, and what happens and how long the time the patient has.
Right. So this is a very important question. So the best thing for a patient who has kidney failure is to get a transplant before they go on dialysis. We call that preemptive transplant. And
so just to clarify, so you suggest that before going dialysis, get a kidney transplant if it is possible.
Ideally. So when your kidney function is less than around 20%, you have the opportunity to be listed for a kidney transplant, and you can go to a transplant center, who will evaluate you, and if you're found to be a suitable candidate, they'll place you on the transplant list. And depending on how long it takes for you to get to end-stage kidney disease and be on dialysis, you could have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years without being on dialysis and still accumulate time to get a deceased donor kidney transplant. And many people will get transplanted prior to going on dialysis through that.
So what is the percentage, like, how many percentage people really get the kidney transplant, right?
By preemptive transplant. So that's one way to do it. The other is a living donor. So the majority of people who have a living donor will obviously get transplanted either before or just when they start on dialysis. So really around a third of kidney transplantation occur in people from living donors. So it's probably just a little bit more or around that number. You'd say that our patients who are getting transplanted at or around the time that they start dialysis.
So the kidney like the living kidney donor, because we have 2 kidneys and 1 can be transplanted, 1 is enough for you to function.
Correct.
Okay. So now this leads me to another question is that when you say that, up to 20% if kidney is working, you're talking about both kidneys at 20%, or
correct?
Generally both work in the same ratio, or there is a...
Right. So when we measure kidney function, we're measuring the overall function. It could be all coming from 1 kidney. It could be coming 50-50 from both kidneys. But any of the blood work and testing that we do is measuring the overall kidney function.
Okay. Now, when so if say there are 100 people who receive kidney transplant, what percentage is the survival rate of the transplant is good?
That's a really good question. So nowadays the survival rate at 1 year is excellent. So the acute rejection rate is probably around 5-6%, less than 10% for sure at 1 year. But acute rejection doesn't mean that the transplant fails. Most of those are treatable. If you look at graft loss or transplant loss at 1 year, it's probably around 95%, 96%. Same for patient and graft in the mid to high 90s. So that is really excellent compared to historic numbers. The real problem is that while there's been this great improvement in 1 year survival, the long-term survival hasn't increased significantly. Well, it has increased, but not as much, let's just put it that way. So that if you get a kidney from a cadaveric or deceased donor, the average survival is still around 13 years. And for most people, 13 years is not long enough. They would expect to live longer. So, many people will require more than 1 kidney transplant, maybe even more than 2. So one of the things that we have been working on is trying to improve the therapeutics and the regulatory requirements that come with drug approval so that we could target medications that would allow us to keep kidneys going for longer.
So everyone who is on the waiting list for kidney as of now is likely to get a kidney, right?
So I wish that were true.
Okay.
The problem is that dialysis is really difficult for the body. And there'll be, unfortunately, many people who get on the waiting list who don't make it to transplant. Because the average time to get a kidney transplant on the waiting list can be 6 to 8 years. Can be a little bit shorter if you have a certain blood group. But we're really talking 6 years or 6 years plus in many cases. It varies in different parts of the country. But that means that a lot of people won't make it to kidney transplantation.
And so now one more question on this, and then we move to your journey. Okay. So before the kidney starts malfunctioning or not properly, what are the issues we should pay attention to? That, okay, now I have to be careful because my kidney is not really working well.
So diabetes is, the commonest cause of having kidney problems, just numerically. And diabetes is very common in the South Asian
Yes,
community.
absolutely. Yeah.
So anybody who's diabetic should always understand what are their kidney numbers. So that's certainly a group that needs to keep very close eye on what their kidney function is. Other than that, kidney disease is really a disease without symptoms until it's very late in development. And so it is really important for people to have checkups, go to their physicians, because in many cases, the only time it's discovered is on a blood test. And if you go for a routine checkup and you just get routine blood work, it nearly always checks your kidney function. So I would advise people to really make sure that they have routine follow-up with their physicians, particularly as they get older.
Yeah, and especially with the A1C is not enough, right?
Yeah, the A1C is not enough.
Okay.
You have to really get your kidney function tested.
And what is the red flag on A1C number, like when you hit that?
So I think nowadays we have many better medications to control diabetes.
Okay.
And so obviously you're trying to keep your A1C as low as possible. I think people below 7 is the ideal for most diabetics in terms of an A1C.
Okay. So now let's move to the fun part.
Yes.
And I want to go to the Scotland.
Yes.
So you go to Scotland to do your medical degree.
I did.
And you meet your fiancée.
Yes.
And how did you meet her, and how was life changing there?
So when I was in Scotland, initially medicine was the last thing on my mind. I was involved in a lot of community activism work in Scotland. And I really met Samir through that.
I thought you were going to say that the last thing was in your mind, but the only thing on mind we were chasing girls, right?
You can say it either way. But yes.
Okay, so you met Samia. How did you meet her, and what? She was also in medical school, or?
She was in law school. She was actually from Scotland. She grew up in Glasgow, and went to London to do engineering, and then came back after her first year, and was thinking about changing from engineering to a different area. She was also very gifted in mathematics, but was very interested in law. I think ultimately decided to pursue law. But I met her because she was part of the local South Asian community, and I was working with them, particularly with the youth, to try to help them integrate into society and to deal with all the issues that first and second generation immigrants face, particularly in the inner city, in terms of balancing their own heritage and culture, but also dealing with integrating into the culture of a different country.
And at that time, it must have been quite challenging there too, right?
Yes, the 1980s, the United Kingdom was a very challenging time to be a South Asian young person.
Sure. So, and then how long you got dated, or when you got married? Or?
So, I would say we got married 6 years after dating. It was complicated because I graduated from medical school. I was moving around in different places. One of the things is that in Scotland, Scottish law is different than English law. So if you graduate in Scotland, you have to do some retraining if you come to England. So there were big decisions that we had to make about where do we live.
I'm Samia. I am Anil's wife. I am also an immigration attorney. I'm going to talk about life at home and supporting Anil's work and the transplantation community. At home, I have to say, there are challenges. There is stress. There is stress because patients' lives are on the line. There is also navigating bureaucracy and politics within the transplantation field. But I have to say, at the end of the day, Anil is a very dedicated father. He really does put his daughters first. He was always there for them. He answers their calls during the day, and He is also a wonderful cook. So we have some very memorable moments over dinner time and meals. So we get through this together, and we have a wonderful way to manage everything that gets thrown at us.
As you growing up, what really shaped your values of day-to-day life, of work? How that was impacted?
So, I think one of the things that my father in particular instilled in me was always to try to be the best version of yourself that you can be. I think, even at a young age, I always thought about, what would my father say? Right? He was somebody who was probably the smartest man I've ever met in my life. He has great intellect. And so you feel a burden as a child to live up to your parents. And he was also somebody who had very strong values of fairness and equity, and which was a little unusual in those days, but also a very strong scientist. So all of those things influenced me. My mother was very compassionate and somebody who really cared. And I think that ultimately, although I joked before that I became a physician because she wanted me to, it did really suit my personality because I inherited many of those values from her.
And your both parents grew up in India?
My parents are from Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
And they moved when my father did his postdoc.
Okay. At that time it was Bihar, right?
No, at that time it's Madhya Pradesh.
Oh, that was in Madhya. Okay. So must have been before that. Okay.
So Madhya Pradesh is the western side of Madhya Pradesh. It's split off.
Right. Okay, excellent. So now, you moved to the US in 1995. How was that? Was that right thing you did, or do you have? So, what are your reflection on moving to US?
So, my reflection of that, it was really one of the happiest times of my life. So, it'd taken some time for me to find that position, and to be able to come and work and to do the thing that I had been working towards for several years, just made life very happy for me. We didn't have a great deal, of money or anything else. Samir was studying at Harvard Law School, and I was doing my fellowship. But it was just such a happy time because we were both so enthusiastic about what we were doing and learning and seeing new things and being in a different country. It was a wonderful time.
And what a wonderful country it is to really thrive anything you want to do, any field. There is absolutely. That's hard, had in my experience as well. That, my God, where we are, so what a beautiful place it is.
I think that is very true. I think the opportunities that are available are tremendous. If I compare them to the United Kingdom, there are opportunities there. But you have to, however, be on the right track. I was a person who changed what I was doing multiple times. So it was very difficult for me to sort of establish myself and get into line and to do the things that I wanted to do. But I felt in many ways there was no judgment here. That if you could prove yourself, then you would be rewarded.
Now, what about like in your phase of life where really you've done amazing thing here in the US and in your field? You were also president of American Transplant Association. So tell us what is that organization does and what it is?
So the American Society of Transplantation is a society of transplant professionals. It's the largest society for transplant professionals in the United States. It runs the most important scientific meeting in transplantation in the world. And it is made up of transplant professionals, not just kidney transplant professionals, but heart, liver, lung.
Oh, much wider.
Much wider. And it's not just physicians, it's scientists, and anybody who's working in the related field of transplantation. It is an organization that lobbies for advancements in transplantation, whether it's scientific or patient care, or even for the professionals themselves. It has proved to be instrumental in creating many changes in the area of transplantation. And when I came here in the United States, I went to my first meeting. I'd never been to a meeting that was solely focused on transplantation, and that was so huge. And I remember thinking, if I could one day lead this organization, my life would be complete. And so it was always an ambition of mine to do that, because I felt that the impact you could have from doing that would be tremendous.
So I'm glad you mentioned ambition, and I was just thinking about asking you also at your this pinnacle of your career is how the ambition and success, how do you define success in the context of ambition?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I remember after I came here a few years, I was talking to one of my friends from the United Kingdom, and they said to me, "Oh, Anil, you've always been a very ambitious person." And I said, "No, I don't think so." Because I didn't view myself as ambitious. I had always viewed myself as just pursuing the thing that I'm interested in the short term, not with a long-term plan. But I think that gradually changed for me over time as I connected the dots and realized that to be truly impactful, you needed to recognize that this was ambition. But I never felt it was ambition for the sake of ambition. It was ambition that was related to a very specific goal for me.
Now, what about, when we talk about success and ambition, also we talk about failure. How have you gone through any of those failure moments, or how do you define failure?
I've gone through many failures. And a lot of which have been my own creating. I think that, without failure, you cannot really understand what success is. And you cannot really think about what success means to you as an individual. I think only at the moments where things are being potentially taken away from you, can you really sort of focus your mind in a way that you can be crystal clear about what it is that you want. And so, yes, I have failed, I think, at multiple times at multiple levels. And I think it's always interesting because, I do a lot of mentoring, which I really enjoy. And I think it is hard for mentees to grasp that you were once at their stage. And you may have even been not as good or shown as much promise as some of these mentees that you currently mentor. And so they find that really difficult to understand. But yes, I think you need to have failure in order to be successful.
How in your career, I'm talking about post-1995, was any particular transformative moment in your personal life or in your career?
So in my personal life, I think when, there's always before kids and after kids.
Sure.
And I think, when I got married, I had a very conscious realization that there was a time I had to be a little bit more thoughtful about my career choices and not just do whatever I wanted to do. But really having children sort of grounded me into this isn't just about me or just me and my wife. It's about the kids. And I think that really sort of made me knuckle down and think more about stability and steadfastness and responsibility on a personal level, which influenced, how I approached my career.
Anil, when you were not working and not spending time with your family, what is your hobby? What do you do?
So I used to read a lot. I find reading to be very important for me to reflect. But I also like cooking. when I cook, I don't have to think about anything. It is just you get lost in the moment, and it's so different than anything else that I do. It is very rewarding to do that. And I think with reading, particularly reading books from outside the area in which I practice, gives me a lot of opportunities to see things through a different prism and to try and connect the dots. And there are always dots to be connected. So I like to read and reflect and to think about things, and it often helps drive my creative process, even if I'm reading about a Roman emperor or something else, because it is, in many ways, a lot of things that drive us and the ideas that we have are very, very broad and not just related specifically to a very specialized area.
So now let's come back to topic number one, cooking.
Yes.
So how often you cook at home and how often your wife cooks? How you do together?
I will take the fifth on how often my wife cooks.
Okay.
And generally I cook a lot. Whenever I have time, I cook.
Okay.
We have a daughter who lives with us. She also likes to cook a lot. So generally, between me and my daughter, we do the lion's share of the cooking.
Oh, excellent. And what are some of your favorite dishes in Africa?
So I like to cook a lot of Indian food, but I also like to do a lot of fusion food too. I like sardines. My daughters make fun of the fact that I will cook sardines in a very unusual way.
Okay.
And my daughter likes to cook a lot of Japanese and Korean food.
Okay. And what is your favorite Indian dish?
So, it's interesting because I was just home in England for my nephew's wedding. And my mother, who's over 80, was still cooking for everybody in the house, for the extended family. And I have to say, it's really anything my mother cooks. It's my favorite.
Oh, excellent. Now, let's come to the books. I also do a lot of reading. I'm reading all the time. I either read or work in my garden. This is only, So now, talk about some of your recent books which you have read.
So there's a book that I'm reading that is called, I've forgotten the exact title of the book, but it is basically about a single day at the peak of the British Empire. And it is things that happened around the world in the British Empire, because the sun never set on the British Empire.
Yeah.
So it is taking excerpts from newspapers and reports on the same day.
I remember, my professor always used to joke, that I remember the saying that the sun never sets in the British Empire, and then he will add that because even God does not trust British in darkness.
That's very good.
So that's just stuck with me. So now, based on all your reading, cooking, your personal life experience, and everything you have done, if I ask you that, okay, what is the one advice you will give to your daughters about life? What will be that one advice?
So I give my daughters lots of advice.
Okay.
But the one piece of advice, I think, what it boils down to is two things. One is that really do what you love doing. And if you can't do that, try to love what it is that you are doing. Because ultimately you are responsible for your own happiness, no matter how good or bad things are going. And that has to be the most important thing.
That's a wonderful advice, actually. I'm going to try to take that too. I think the way you explained it, that if then you enjoy what you are doing, that's really the fantastic idea, yes. Now, before I let you go, I know that you like Indian food and you have some dishes. So if you couldn't escape the Indian food being born in England, I'm sure you would have not escaped Bollywood either. So do you watch Bollywood movies, or do you have any favorite actors or actresses?
There was a time I used to watch Bollywood movies. I don't generally watch them nowadays. If you were to ask me what is my favorite film, I would probably say Lagan.
Okay, yeah, sure. The cricket one, yes. The American, and you grew up with the Bollywood. I'm sure your parents must be watching, and
Yes.
that's a different word. Anyway, on that note, Anil, it was really pleasure talking
Yes,
with you,
likewise.
and really enjoyed knowing about you, and also the kidney and transplant, which is very helpful for our viewers and audience as well. And we'll see you on November 1st at the New England Awards.
Very much looking forward to it. Thank you very much.